Hello and welcome to the People Podcast by Blue Communications, the podcast where we invite marine and renewable energy experts to share their stories whilst talking about the challenges and issues facing our industries. I'm Simon Phillips, your host for this episode, and our guest today will be a very familiar voice to many of our listeners. Jan Webber is the Director of Development at the Mission to Seafarers and one of our industry's great champions and advocates for the millions of men and women who work at sea. We're looking forward to learning more about Jan's career in our industry and the insights that she can share with us all. Before we get started, a quick reminder to subscribe so you don't miss out on our future podcasts. But for now, let's jump in. I'm joined today by Jan Webber, Director of Development at the Mission to Seafarers. Jan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here and to be talking to you.
Now, your name and voice will be familiar to many of our listeners, I've no doubt, through your work at the Mission in recent years. But your career in the maritime world, and specifically the seafarer welfare sector, extends well beyond that. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the maritime industry in the first place?
Oh, yes, with pleasure. So I started my career in the voluntary sector 30 years ago. So I started working for a disabled children's charity in Southampton. And then I went to work for a school, and then I wanted to work for an international organization. The opportunity came up to work for the Sailor Society, which I did for 11 years, and then I applied to the mission, or the mission approached me actually to join them, and it was marvelous to join the Mission to Seafarers because I've got a very wide platform. And a global reach, a bigger global reach than I had before.
When you first got involved in the sector, Jan, what was your level of knowledge or understanding of the shipping industry or the world facing seafarers as it was at that time?
I had no knowledge of the shipping industry apart from my uncle Albert, who had went to sea when he was 14 years old as a merchant seafarer. But what I discovered was that an absolutely fascinating industry, and I was determined to learn as much as I could about the industry to increase my knowledge. And I was an avid reader of trade winds to give me a base of my knowledge going forward, and used to read trade winds cover to cover to just learn who were the movers and shakers of the industry, and more about uh, who I should be talking to and how to build my networks. Yes, I'm really thrilled to have joined the industry. It's so varied and so very interesting, and there's something new to learn every day.
So what was the nature of of when you first started off in the seafarer welfare space at the Sailor Society? What was the nature of your role, and what were the particular challenges and issues that you were faced with at that time?
So I had previously, my previous charities, I had started the departments from scratch and built them up into something significant. And that was the same challenge I faced at the Sailor Society, which was to take a department that had, I think we had two or three people in my team to start with, very little fundraising going on, and to build up a team that was that was able to achieve some significant feats, and I did that very successfully. So it was a small team, very limited in knowledge as well. So I threw myself into that, and 11 years later, the results were amazing. We ran some very big events. Many of your listeners will remember the Three Peaks Challenge and the Asian Challenge, the Kinabalu Challenge, that were that were very successful. Geneva Shipping Ball and a Seafarers Dinner in Singapore. All of which, when I now look back at them, they seemed big achievements at the time. But they were for much smaller numbers than we're working with now at the mission. The numbers that we're working with now are considerably larger, and we're raising considerably more more money. Um, and that's down to the network and the profile that the mission has globally. Seafarers recognize the mission brand, and when they come into port, they tend to refer to it as the Mish or the Flying Angel.
Mm.
So the profile of the mission is so widespread that we're instantly recognizable for seafarers, which is really good.
Has there been much change in the nature of the issues that you've found yourself or the mission championing and campaigning around over that time, or and has that shaped the the way that you've engaged with the corporate contacts and sponsors and individual owners and supporters of the charity over that time?
It's been interesting is that during my career that the seafarers welfare and charity work when I first joined was quite a low profile,
Mm.
and people didn't really have charity budgets. And over the 20 years that I've been in the industry now, um, I'm seeing more and more companies actually having charity budgets. Some of them are still very small budgets, but we work closely with companies um, to access wider budgets than their charity budgets, their training budgets, or their marketing budgets, or their um, or other kinds of budgets, ESG budgets, where we can have a better fit and access more funds from them. But what was interesting during the pandemic was that seafarers' welfare really did rise on the agenda of people's awareness. And we were seeing company directors making phone calls to masters of captains, which they wouldn't previously have done. And they were doing that really because they weren't traveling, so they were in their offices, and it seemed that they were recognizing the importance of seafarers to their businesses. So the pandemic really gave us a great deal of leverage in keeping the seafarers' welfare as a high priority. And that has it's waned slightly, but still you can't take away awareness that was there. And certainly many companies now are improving their seafarers welfare. Mental health is top of the agenda, and we're working very closely with a lot of companies in that mental health sector. And the development of our Safe Talk, our suicide prevention and awareness courses are really, um, really sought after. Um, so there is more awareness, and companies are doing more about it. But still a very long way to go, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, and of course, we saw the issues over shore leave. Um, many seafarers spent long periods at sea during the pandemic. The longest we recorded was 22 months. And you imagine not setting foot on land for a period of 22 months. It's unimaginable. But we've heard that also some companies or some ports have not reversed um, those COVID restrictions. And in Busan, for instance, we're still struggling to get onto the ships in Busan because they've still got their pre-COVID restrictions.
It feels like a really mixed picture in terms of a combination of some really positive strides forward that have been taken for welfare standards. But at the same time, when you describe the pandemic, for example, as being a real wake up call for the industry appreciating just how much it relies on seafarers, it's pretty worrying that maybe it wasn't as obvious or evident as it should have been, um, how vital a role they all play.
Yeah, I think um, what we classify as the good ship owners. The good ship owners were doing good work, and they continue to do good work. And I've seen a lot of evidence of the good ship owners and operators and managers really valuing their seafarers. So, but there's a big gap between the medium to smaller operators And of course, there's a lot to do with budget. They don't have the same resources to spend on seafarers' welfare that they may even wish to.
Mm.
You find large companies improving the living conditions on board ship, investing a lot of money in improving the living conditions on board ship. And the EPS is a case in point that they really have um, upgraded their ships to be more hotel-like than dormitory, not dormitory or cabin-like.
Yeah.
And they chef Pat, their chef Patrick, the private chef to I don't offer. He goes on board and he talks to the well, they call them cooks now. Sorry, chefs now, not just cooks. So there've been some amazing highlights of companies recognizing that. And my view is that if seafarers are made aware of the good ship owners and the good operators and the way they're being treated, that seafarers will hopefully vote with their feet and do that and go to the companies that have got good internet coverage. But but there's still a lot of exploitation at the bottom end of the market, a lot of abandonment. You've got the recruitment fees issue, where seafarers having to pay recruitment fees, which of course is illegal, to get a berth and to go to sea. So there are still a lot of issues at that end.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I guess over the course of the you know the many years you've spent working in this sector, have there been any particularly defining moments when it comes to perhaps, I guess, recognizing the critical importance of the work that you've been doing, or that have caused you to perhaps think differently about the challenge, or the approach that you're bringing to?
One continues to learn throughout life, and that's what I like about the industry. That you do continue to learn. There's so many different facets to the industry. So to to create one defining moment is difficult because it's just lots and lots of things that happen to you that shape you into the person that you are, and with the knowledge that you have. And over the 20 years, I've gained a lot of knowledge because I've gone looking for it. So I wouldn't say that there was one defining moment that uh, you know. We've talked about the pandemic, which was clearly an important defining moment, that and we did raise money during the pandemic because of that awareness that was good. But from a personal point of view, I think the adventure race in Japan has been a really real success for us, an amazing success, a trailblazing event.
Let's perhaps touch on the Adventure Race Japan briefly, Jan, because that has just taken place relatively recently, and it's such an exciting event, and really quite groundbreaking, not just in terms of the scale of what takes place, but the sums of money that your participants are collectively raising as well. Could you just maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so the Adventure Race Japan 2025 happened, as you said, just a matter of days ago. The first event was in 2023. We had 64 teams. We raised 1.3 million US dollars, with 950,000 going towards our frontline work. That was 3 years in the making. We were delayed one year because of COVID, but we had an amazing volunteer committee behind that, which we would never have been able to have achieved it without the volunteer committee. In 2025, we've just raised 1.85 million, increasing from 64 to 100 teams, and the atmosphere at the event was absolutely incredible. So, for those that don't know what the event is, it's a 2 day event, 1 day of trekking and 1 day of orienteering. You arrive on the Thursday and leave on the Sunday. And we chose Japan because we knew that a lot of the shipping industry were eager to do business in Japan. And Japan was a place that people liked to go to as well. So we were able to bring together the international shipping community and introduce them in many cases to the Japanese shipping community and vice versa. The Japanese shipping community was equally keen to do business with the international shipping community, and that's one of the real um, really important criteria of this event, that it opens up business opportunities for businesses. It's bringing people together in like a soft environment. It's not a conference um, where you're listening to lots of conference speeches about specific topics. You're there for a reason because you want to support seafarers' welfare, and you've got the added reason of being able to do business at the same time.
with a bit of healthy competition,
Yes, very.
healthy, friendly competition, hopefully friendly.
Yeah, well, the
To be-
industry is highly competitive, and we had some very competitive teams out there,
Absolutely.
really pushing their times. We run two types of event. One is a run, and one is a hike, so it's accessible for all. It's just amazing achievement for a charity of our size to be organising an event in Japan, where the cultural differences need to be considered. Um, uh, English is not as widely spoken as you might expect, so we had enormous challenges to overcome. But the success of it, this trailblazing event, I'm really proud of my team for pulling it off. It's been
Mhm.
very demanding on everybody.
And you mentioned the fact that it brings together so many teams from so many organizations, genuinely from around the world, to support this one event. As an example of an event that, as you say, had a real clear purpose at the heart of it, that sense of purpose and motivation feels really important to the work that lots of, well, all elements of your team and your colleagues at the mission, from the staff to the volunteers through to your supporters as well, them having a clear sense of motivation and purpose behind um, the reason why you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were able to show lots of videos of our work. And we had 350 people, 345 people in the room for our briefing ceremony and our awards ceremony. You could have heard a pin drop, and they were all looking at these videos and all learning more about the work of the mission as a result of it. So the event has tremendous benefits,
Mhm.
and it's it is motivating. Using that word motivation is very important. Um, my team work really hard, and I'm very proud of them. And they are all motivated to push the envelope, to do more, and to explore new horizons. And when you get a good result like this, it really encourages them, to go the extra mile, and I can't ask any more than that.
Mhm. One of the many brilliant things about the shipping and maritime industry is that it does intersect with other sectors and industries as well, whether that's transport, logistics, or technology and the environment. And in your case, um, I think about the charitable and fundraising sector as well, and whether there are insights or lessons that you bring to the work that you and the team do at Mission and to the shipping space that maybe you know you learn through having one foot in the obviously the charitable and fundraising sectors as well.
Yes, I mean, I love my job. My job is a fantastic job. Really enjoy it. And the first thing I learned in fundraising was that people give to people. They give because they trust the person that is giving the message, and it aligns so perfectly with the corporate industry because people do business with people that they know and trust around the world. And what is so great is that you can be in Oslo or Singapore or um, Athens, Cyprus, wherever you are in the world at an industry event, there will be people that you know, and it's a wonderful organization, a wonderful industry to be part of.
Mm.
But it does take a lot of hard work to get to that point. When I started started in the industry, I went into a room, I didn't know a single soul. Mind you, it's happening more often now because I'm seeing lots of younger faces.
Mm.
But it's really warming to know that you can walk into a room and find someone to talk to that you know. And the industry, of course, relies very much on its social contacts as well, which is why we all enjoy our face-to-face contacts, and of course we get so much more out of that than Zoom calls are great, Teams calls are great because they do connect us when we can't do it face to face, but there is no substitute for the face to face meeting.
I think that's such a powerful lesson for whatever your role in this industry, whether you're in a private organization, commercial setting, regulatory, whatever it might be, just the power and importance of those human networks and
Yeah.
relationships.
And of course, the face to face too is really important for the port based work. Our frontline troops, our port chaplains all around the world, they are there to go and meet with the seafarers face to face. If a seafarer is in difficulty and a chaplain comes on board and says, "How can I help you today?" He's far more likely to open up and share a problem with the chaplain than he is to pick up a phone, call a helpline, email somebody he can't see, he doesn't know who they are or what their background is or what their name is. But to meet a chaplain that comes on board and says, "How can I help you today? I'm just here for you," is really, really powerful. So our face-to-face work extends not only through our fundraising and our corporate partnerships, but very, very much so through our frontline work where our chaplains are meeting seafarers
Mhm.
um, where they are in the ports every day. Chaplains are our unsung heroes because they go out all weathers, spend long time um, visiting ships and doing what they can to help.
And we're talking here about 200 plus ports, 50
Yeah,
plus countries around the world. It's truly
yeah.
global, isn't it? And does that hold up even for the youngest seafarers, those at the start of their career, you know, millennials now serving at sea? Does that importance of the human connection and the face to face still hold up?
Yes, I think the importance of the face to face for the younger generation. We want the younger generation of seafarers to be made aware of our work because there's you have seafarers who are retiring, lots of young seafarers coming on board, and it's really important for us to be able to reach as many seafarers as possible. Um, and just bring in here the point of women as well. Not all women want to go to sea, but I would encourage women to take up a role in the shipping industry. It's such a fascinating industry to be part of. You are very much more aware of geopolitical activity, the economy, what uh, you know what happens in different parts of the world. And I remember during the pandemic, we had a seafarer who was off the coast of China on a ship that was moving coal from Australia to China. And at the time, China had an embargo on Australian coal. And the seafarer was desperate to get home. His family were suffering because of COVID. And it's not very often I get a call from a seafarer, but I did at this time. And he said, "I just want to know what's going on and when I might be able to get home." So I was able to put him in touch with the right person who said, I said, "He just needs to know, just needs more communication. It might be, maybe you won't have an answer to the problem, but he just needs to be told that you're doing your best to help him." So yes, I think that there's much to learn in the industry, and you never stop learning. So um, yeah, I would definitely recommend it to younger generation to get involved either at sea or in the shipping industry ashore.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like and just from my limited experience compared to yours, but having worked with you on a good number of these issues, there are fundamentals that remain ever true about the experience for seafarers, their time at sea, their time in port, but there are also some really significant ways in which that changes and evolves over time as well, and the nature of the challenges then faced by your colleagues in
Yes.
port evolve as well.
Yes, absolutely. Because with technological changes as well, and uh, some of your older listeners will remember that seafarers used to post a letter in one port and pick up the answer in the next port, and now many of them are connected real time through internet. Um, but that does bring its own issues too of um, of being aware real time of what's happening at home, that they know what's happening at home. But um, so we introduced a social welfare training, a social communications training course to help um, to help the families of seafarers understand the pressures of seafarers at sea, and that they can't always help the issues at home, and to be very cognizant of what they're asking the seafarer to help with.
And over the course of your career, you have, I mean, quite literally crisscrossed the globe, spending a lot of time in many of the sort of major shipping centers and shipping hubs around the world. Have you seen, or have you detected any difference in how seafarers are regarded, or even, let's say, in the profile of the industry in different parts of the world, to the extent that that then benefits or not, how seafarers are regarded as well?
Um, I think it all comes down to individual companies as well, as to how they look after their seafarers. Um, because my work is very much, on the fundraising marketing side. I'm not so much at the front end, which is where my colleague Ben Bailey works as the director of program.
Mm.
So I think when I speak to companies and I give them the message of what we're doing, their companies always very appreciative of what we're doing. And of course, if the industry had to provide the service that we provide, it would be mind-blowingly expensive. It would cost so much more than what we're providing. The cost of our provision, because we rely a lot on volunteers and on some of the clergy staff. Um, they're not the highest paid. It's not the highest paid profession to be in.
And to that extent, I guess the relationships that you have and have to and continue to develop and nurture with the regulatory arm to the industry, whether that's at the very highest level or at a national level, coming down to individual ports and their regulatory authorities, is ever so important as well. In as much as they, I hope, recognise and are supportive of what you're looking to bring to the industry and bring to the vessels and seafarers calling at their ports.
Yes, yes, I think the regulations are important. The MRC is important, but not obviously not every port has implemented that.
Mm.
I think the issue that we're seeing with shore leave at the moment is a good example. Is that if a seafarer wants to go ashore, obviously got to get the permission of the master to go ashore, and then there's a whole series of steps that he needs to go through in order to get to the local amenities. Some ports are much easier than the others, but there are restrictions. Maybe there's work to be done, so he can't go ashore. Maybe there's an issue with the agent or visas or transport or um, and from our perspective, when we enter the port, we may have our port passes, but in some parts of the world, the chaplain will appear at the port at the gate and be denied entry just because
Mm.
there's a different person on the gate, and he wants a bribe to be able to get through. So, and of course, we don't do that. We don't enter into that area at all.
Mm.
So, uh, what I would really like to see is everyone pulling together and whoever is in a position to make a difference to shore leave, I would really like to see them all pulling together and saying, we've got to really solve this issue and to make it as easy as possible for a seafarer to have his shore leave. If you can imagine, if you were told to go in, you went to your office one day and with your sort of little overnight bag, and then told that you couldn't leave for 9 months, you couldn't set foot outside the office, or you could just go down to the office courtyard car park and back up again. Your is enormous enormous impact on the welfare. And we know mental health is so important. And we've had stories from captains saying, I'd really encourage my seafarers to go ashore because mental health is so good for their mental health to go ashore and have that change of scenery. But if all those involved in causing obstructions for seafarers, um, not easing their path to shore leave, if they could all do their little bit in improving it, then that could really help seafarers' lives.
It sounds as though I'm sure there's no single silver bullet that
No.
is going to change everything, but it sounds as though shore leave, if there's one issue that could be seriously addressed and improved, that would be pretty high up the list then.
Mm. Yeah, yes, it definitely would be. And of course, ideally we would like to have port chaplains and operations in all of the major ports around the world. And there's much more potential for us, much more work that we can be doing. And we appeal to those listening to this podcast to reach out to us and to become a corporate partner with us, because we can do so much more with your help. And as has been proven by the Adventure Race Japan and our Flying Angel campaign as well, is that there are opportunities to engage which will bring benefits to the companies themselves. An example here is the Anglo-American. We run an operation in ASU in South America for Anglo-American. They saw the need to have welfare in that port, and they're funding our chaplain to deliver that welfare. I would encourage other companies who are in a similar situation to reach out to us, because if a company funds a chaplain in a port where their seafarers are directly benefiting, we would really like to see more of these examples around the world, so that we can really focus our support where it's needed most.
Mm. Dealing with the issues that you and your team do engage with, Jan, sort of day in, day out. I mean, some of the stories that you can hear can be completely horrific in terms of the conditions that they face. And sometimes I'm sure the pace of change doesn't feel anything like fast enough to, compared to what seafarers deserve. Do you find yourself ever feeling pessimistic about the pace of change, or about the issues that continually come up, despite being, in lots of cases, very well documented and very well understood?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word pessimistic, because I'm an eternal optimist. I have faith in the industry, that the industry will ultimately proceed and do the right thing. So I am optimistic that people will do that. I mean, we've seen the pace of change with the internet. There's still not enough internet on board ships, but there's more than there was. And seafarers are going to ships with internet, and not to ships that don't have internet. So I do have faith that the seafarers will vote with their feet. But yes, the pace of change is never fast enough. I do live life as fast as I can. I like to cram as much into my life and into my work as I can. And one is a bit more frustrated with the pace of change, and frustrated that you can't make the change yourself. You have to rely on others to partner with you to make that change. And if their agenda is if it's not high on their agenda, then that's that's our job, is to ensure it remains high on their agenda.
Is channeling that frustration in a healthy direction, is that part of the motive? Does that become part of the motivation, or can that be a motivational tool for you to keep pushing in the right direction and fighting the good fight?
Yeah, I'm motivated by the industry, and by achieving what I achieve, it motivates me to do more. So it's just fueling more energy. Success breeds success, and we've still got a long way to go. But so my whole team is motivated, and I'm very fortunate to have a strong, dedicated team. I'm fortunate to be part of a senior management team that is very respectful and a strong leadership. So the mission, the culture within the mission is one of respect and caring, and I think if you've got an organisation that is strong in those um, that type of culture, then the people that you employ are like-minded.
And is that culture? There's obviously, I guess, a challenge in building that culture internationally, globally, as you need to across your ports, across your staff, across the volunteer team as well. That is such an important part of the business as well, the organisation. I guess that makes the culture and the purpose behind what you and the mission and your team do all the more important. Is that fair?
Yes, building the culture is really important, and we continue to do that. All our operations around the world have one, really important aspect is that they want to do their best for seafarers. But the mission was established nearly 170 years ago by missionaries who went out across the world and set up different entities around the world. So some are independent mission to seafarers, and some are branches of the mission in London. But throughout, we do our best to we've introduced common standards, which all our organisations are signing up to, and we work closely. Certainly, Nina, our comms manager, works closely with them over communications and communicating the importance of the culture that we emanate from London at IHQ.
You alluded there to the history behind the name in a way, and there's a serendipity behind the word mission as well, both reflecting the historical roots of the organisation, very long and distinguished roots, and then in a very modern sense as well, the mission that sits behind what motivates you and the team
Yeah.
to try and do on behalf of the millions of seafarers that rely on your support as well.
Yeah, we're immensely privileged to be in the position that we are in, to be working for an organisation that is doing such good around the world, and so we're motivated by knowing that the funds that we're raising, the communications that we're putting out, will ultimately benefit vulnerable people who are not in a position that to help themselves, and the voice of the seafarer is so important, which is why we set up the Seafarers Awards in Singapore, was to recognise the importance of seafarers' welfare and to recognise those champions who have gone that extra mile, um, both at sea and shore side, to improve seafarers' welfare. And it's important to raise them up and to recognise them. And to set them as an example to others so that other people will say, well, I can do that too on board my ship. I can run a quiz night. I can run we can all have recognize a birthday. So all of those little kind gestures that people do have on board ship really make life um, much easier and more of a normal existence as much as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. The more that those good ideas and creative ideas can be shared and maybe inspire other people to do likewise, the better. Absolutely. We're really grateful for your time today. I guess perhaps in conclusion, the last question to wrap up is for anyone who, let's say, maybe listening to this, maybe thinking about uh, a career in the maritime industry. What advice would you offer them if they were either considering a career or if they're starting out in the industry today, to build a long and successful career?
I think it's to be curious and inquisitive, and to talk to people in the industry to learn more about the different roles, because there are so many different roles in the industry that you can do, um, far more than obviously I'm aware of. So talk to different people, and I suppose if it's helpful to speak to people, certainly if a woman within Worcester, because you've got lots of really enthusiastic women in Worcester, and just to find out more and to find out where your niche is, what appeals to you, because there's so many opportunities in so many different sectors of the industry. I definitely encourage people to join, whether as I said before, maybe the sea is not for them, but the shoreside industry is equally fascinating.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a role for everyone in this industry, and a lot to motivate and enjoy
Yeah.
along the way for sure. Lots of fun to be had. Jan, we could talk about this for absolutely hours on
Yes.
this topic. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat today. It's a pleasure to learn a lot more about what keeps you motivated to continue doing the amazing work that you and as you have absolutely acknowledged, the entire team at the Mission to Seafarers do every day, all around the globe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Simon. It's been a privilege to do that and to tell my story, and I hope your listeners find it interesting.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Speaking to Jan, I was really struck by the importance of personal relationships and networks throughout her career, as well as the value of a clear sense of purpose and motivation, particularly when the work you're doing will make a difference to the lives of seafarers all around the globe. If you'd like to know more about the mission's work, please do visit missiontoseafarers.org. And if you enjoyed this podcast, then you can subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments. Until next time, thank you for listening. I'm Simon Phillips, and this has been the People Podcast by Blue Communications.